6:30 on, oh my God, Monday, March 19th. Call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order. We have one item on our agenda to a vote to approve these bonds. So I'm going to read this one motion and we can get down to the vote. This is long-winded. So, we read, I, the clerk of the Board of Selectmen of the town of Manchester by the Sea, Massachusetts, certify that a meeting of the board held March 19th, 2018, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified, in which a quorum was present. The following votes were unanimously passed, all of which appear upon the official record of the board in my custody. Voted that the sale of the $5,160,000 general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2018 bonds of the town dated March 29, 2018, the bonds, to Raymond James and Associates, Inc. at the price of $5,685,151.29 and accrues interest, if any, is hereby approved and confirmed. The bonds shall be payable on March 15th of the years, and the principal amounts and bear interest at the respective rates as follows. I will not read the table, but the years span from 2019 to 2033. Further noted that the bonds maturing on March 15, 2033, a term bond shall be subject to a mandatory redemption or mature as follows from the years 2029 to 2033. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of the bonds, the preparation and distribution of the notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated March 7th, 2018 is final, and a final official statement dated March 15th, 2018. The official statement, each in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further voted that the bonds shall be subject to redemption at the option of the town upon such terms and conditions as are set forth in the official statement. Further voted that the town treasurer and the Board of Selectmen be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver a continuing disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the bonds for the benefit of the holder of the bonds from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and direct the treasurer to establish post-issuance federal tax compliance procedures in such form as the treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax-exempt status of the bonds. Further voted that each member of the Board of Selectmen, the town clerk, and town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes. I further certify that the votes were taken at a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that a notice stating the place, time, and agenda of the meeting, which agenda included the adoption of the above votes, was filed with the town clerk, and a copy thereof posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or on the municipal building and the office of the town clerk is located, or if applicable in accordance with an alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29.03 Section 2B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, prior to the time of the meeting and remain so posted at the time of the meeting that no deliberation or decision in connection with the sale of the bonds were taken in executive session, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 to 25, as amended. That is the motion. May I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So this is a vote to approve bonds that the appropriations for which we approved at the last town meeting for doing infrastructure repairs to the town for the people out there in the TV land who are listening to this right now or in a few days. So, we have Clerk of the Board of Selectmen today is going to be you. So we have to, oh, that's,
Yep.
you
Jennifer
guys
has
have
I
this.
have a bunch here.
This is you.
Let's just start
You
with the
wanna
bonds.
start going?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll sign
All right.
Do you have a pen?
I do not.
Okay. Here,
Nope. We have
that.
pens.
Oh, do you have extra?
pens are plenty.
There's 11 bonds.
Yeah, it's from Howling Television.
One signature page per, right?
Oh, you don't have to change sides on this one. Just seeing if we're paying
Now it's just
attention.
4 of everything, that's right.
Just seeing if we're paying attention. Just that one's here.
I wonder if we're running out of room in town hall. It's all the records retention. Yeah. What
You get
is
one
this?
pretty little packet back, signed by everybody. One little folder.
Oh, so the bond agencies have to hang on to the rest of this stuff?
Give this all up to them.
So distribute the pain.
Let them have records retention problems. It's nice getting this done, huh? It's nice getting this over with. Yes. The hard work.
All right.
Let the digging begin.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Not-
No,
no.
easy.
Yeah.
Now, let's remember the way we did it. Sometimes we struggle when we
go back
have
and
nine
forth.
multiples. We like look at each other
then
like,
2
wait,
days
do you
later
have
we
it?
go
Wait,
like-
do you have it? Remember how we did that?
You pile down for the first time. Nominated for escrow. Awesome, thank you.
And we have town reports.
Oh, I didn't get that one. I did this.
You got one?
I just get, thank you.
Your reading, bedtime reading.
Yeah.
Tonight's the night they're putting them together, and I think there's as many handouts as there are.
Oh,
Yeah, there's the open door food pantry, and if anyone, and that's for the, like, the food collection that they have. And they've also gotten permission from Alan to have a couple of boxes there, so
Oh, good.
people
I'm
bring
glad.
their
Oh, that's
food
great.
to the town meeting.
good.
And that's gonna be in the paper, and then they have Manchester Essex Conservation Trust, Fourth of July Committee, Manchester Essex Regional School District, Friends of Trees, something else in there, it's like,
Will we get a copy of what the school district is inserting before it comes to our door?
oh, you know, I accepted
I-
those.
Email that to us.
I'd rather see it
Yeah.
before I took it out of my yellow bag.
I should have,
I'll send them an email, they'll
Yeah.
send it along.
I just
do you
think
want me
that's-
just, I can go by the Scout House and just drop them in your mailboxes here. I'm sure there'll be extras. I got them this afternoon from Avi and put them inside, but I didn't think of,
Yeah, I
grab
just
them some.
would rather see it before versus,
yep.
I'm just going to, I'm gonna hold off on signing this part just to make sure that it's okay. If they would prefer you, yeah. Just wanna check before I sign it. Okay, no, I'm done.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Jen.
That was easy.
Yeah, I could spend time doing that easy stuff.
You spent a whole load of money in a very short period of time.
That's right. I keep hearing 2033, I'm like, oh my God.
Be here before you know it.
Time, yeah.
No,
right.
guys.
Thanks, Jen.
Have a good night.
So, do you want to have further discussion?
So, sort of have a
Yeah,
brief discussion on options
Yeah.
going forward. Move on?
yeah, so, one of the things we have an opportunity to do now that we have a position open, for the assistant for the town administrator is to look at the job across the job description that currently is there and say, are there other things that we should look at relative to qualifications, people, and perhaps looking at raising the level of the position a little bit more than just a typical administrative assistant type role. So some of the questions can, and again, for discussion purposes only, and it's obviously Greg's decision and hire, but when we start thinking about the kinds of things that we're going to be doing between the infrastructure projects, the sustainability projects, all of the things that are coming down the pike, HR resources, just basic implementing of, performance evaluations, things like that. There are things here that if we look at the position a little differently, we might be able to garner some better use of Greg's time as well as grow someone into a position for future down the road. I go back to the example of when Judy was working at the schools and Avi came in early and he kind of worked through and learned the pace of the business administration, whether or not it's in our scope or understanding or timing to do something like this while we have an opportunity, while it's open. So it's more just a point of discussion to see what the board thinks, and obviously Greg will make his decision on his own, but
Yeah, I mean, so you have piles of things that are administrative in nature that you could maybe take a hand with, have a hand with. So grant applications and some preliminary aspects of the state paperwork on contracts. I don't know. I know, for example, like Eric Stallings and the contracts for
Meep.
energy, meat, right. There's gotta be some of the groundwork that a good aggressive assistant could take on. Some of it you have to do, some of it's negotiations and higher level strategy, but that there's a bunch of it that's gotta be chase the rules with the state and dot the i's and cross the t's, that somebody could do for you. Takes a certain amount of skill, but I think it would be a good idea if the person we hired had that ability and had the interest in doing that.
I mean, it would be ideal to think that you could hire an assistant town administrator, but I'm sure that that is financially unfeasible, as well as something that I think you have to start laying the groundwork for 2 years ahead of time. It isn't something that, you know, you just think about right now. And I don't know, I mean, Rockport has like 8,500 people, and they have an assistant town administrator.
Well, right now, he's the interim.
Yeah,
town
he's the
manager.
interim, yeah, because Linda's out.
Retiring, yeah.
Yeah. So, if you had a person like that, you could get, you know, an assistant town administrator for administration, shall we say, or give that particular person a title, and then you'd know, you know, what tasks. And I kind of agree with Greg's information here in terms of, you know, you need an effective screener who can just say, no, you can't go see the town administrator right now, I can handle that situation for you. There's always I'm sure, you know, you feel it, you know, you have a situation where someone wants to come in and talk to you, and you kind of can't say no, and the person should be there for 5 minutes and they're there for 25 minutes because they figure that now that they have your ear, they're going to talk about four other topics, or just go on forever there, but that person also, as being an effective screener, has to be someone that is kind of in sync with you and can say to someone, yes, take that and run with it, and come back and check with Greg in a week. You know, just not just saying, you know, work that out and then come back and check, you know, tomorrow to see if Greg agrees with this. But that person kind of has to be a subset of you in terms of thinking. That's the big thing. Now, you could find someone who has HR experience, or maybe has done some HR work, and that could be one thing that could kind of get lifted out of, I mean, there's a certain amount that has to happen in the treasurer collector's office, but there's a certain amount of paperwork that could be done in the selectman's office also. And if you have someone who is this person who is going to be a subset of you, that person has to, or the department heads need to understand that, I don't know, where does that person kind of sit in the hierarchy of things? Is it you, the department heads, that person, you, that person, and then the department heads? You know, there's certain tasks and certain roles that I'm sure you want to deal one-on-one with the department heads, and there's certain department heads that need a lot more direction than others.
No, and as we grow the capabilities of department heads, that should lessen. It's clear that we need to go.
Yeah, and I would think, at least in the short and medium term, you'd still want the department heads bolted in pretty directly to you.
Yeah, in my experience in these roles, they're typically, they're not above the department heads, they're part of the team. Do you know what I mean? It's not a hierarchical that it goes that way. Typically, that administrative assistant piece is usually, you know.
It's a straight line
Yeah.
with the department heads.
Yeah, and you could, you know, I mean, you can organize it any way that you want to, you know, that makes sense. But I think, to your point, you need to be sensitive to the way things are and think about what are the implications of the change, you know. We have opportunities of things, the way that we've done them before with IT and a few other things that we've been talking about, regionalization models, things like that, where we might be able to leverage some things. So it's really about putting the puzzle together. We've got a new town clerk who's now got some time under her belt. She could maybe think of doing some additional stuff too. So, the communications piece we talked about.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of things open here. My point is that it's always good to take a pause and just have the conversation and see what works, what could work out. And one of the things I said to Greg is if we want to pursue something along these lines, that maybe we just get some temporary help in for the next few months until we can sort out some of it too. So that's another way.
Well, that was gonna be my question, is how much longer can you go without
Not much.
somebody in there?
And Beth is great. and gets you
Well,
there.
right, but
But
she's
yeah.
retired. We're asking
Right. She does-
yeoman
she keeps asking,
again.
How's the process coming?
Yeah, I don't blame her.
So,
So, anyway.
So I guess fundamental question I have is, what do you read as the appetite for the extra finances that a true assistant TA would require?
I think it's all about how it's positioned and what the person is going to do. I think there's a lot of appetite for people looking at being more efficient and driving things in a better, more strategic way. Similar to when we brought on the town planner, similar to when we brought on Melanie, for communications, people kind of wondered, well, gee, why? But if we have a rationale and a reason for it, I think the finance piece would follow. It's not that everybody would maybe agree with it, but I think you have to quantify it and talk about it from a very specific.
And I think it might make us potentially more efficient in terms of our finances. You're so swamped with a lot of different things that there are some things that get strung out a little bit longer because the negotiations are harder to get done. And maybe we could get some of that savings back. It'd be a little bit hard to quantify, but we might be able to pull some grants in a little quicker. We might be able to pull in the execution on certain contracts a little quicker. If we had more people doing some of the groundwork, or taking the pressure off you on other fronts to allow you to complete on it quicker. So, and depending on the number we're talking, I think, yeah, we could make a pretty good case for it. The other question is how long are we looking to hire somebody for this position who says, I want to be here for the next 20 years doing this? Or maybe we're hiring somebody who wants to do this and then move on, especially if we are tailoring them towards an assistant TA position. They want to grow out of it into a TA position. Hire somebody a little bit more junior who's aggressive, can come in at a lower cost, that we can accept some of the training costs, and knowing that they're gonna make up for it in enthusiasm.
Yeah, and there's the option, ICMA has this fellowship program. And those are particularly recent graduate students who are looking basically for a foot in the door.
Yeah,
So they're here for maybe 2 years.
2 years is a little short, I think, but.
Well, and I love the concept of that, but how much time does that take from you on a daily basis to train them?
Well, and therein lies the rub, because the point here is to take time off the plate
Not
versus,
add. And
not
I
add.
love the fellowship idea, but I think I'd be concerned we'd be compounding the frustrations.
You might spend the first 6 months training the person and then bringing them up to speed, and then all of a sudden in 12 months after that, they someplace else, just.
Well, I mean, you do a contract with them typically, right? So you can build a contract that would incent them to stay full 2-3 years, disincent them to stay 12
Right,
months.
that-
Mm.
yes. Yeah, that third-year-old, so be more expensive, but they're trained and doing more, they're more productive at that point.
Yeah. Do you have
Is this-
any idea about what the differential in costs might be?
So the fellowship
I think
fellows,
it is.
they recommend a salary of 35 a year. So that's about half of, less than half of what you're probably gonna pay.
Yeah. So for an actual assistant TA, what are the salary ranges typically?
Probably in the 80s.
Plus the benefit
Benefits,
costs.
yeah.
Well, within the current salary structures, we might be close to that if the position in town clerk's office ends up not being filled.
Mm.
Yeah,
Close.
close, right.
I think there's, there's certainly ways that you can make something work. I think the concept is more as directionally, is this something we think is worth looking into a little further at this point? That's sort of my question to everybody tonight was, does it make sense to turn the page with the next step, look at the job descriptions a little more, clearly based on where we are today versus where we want to go, begin to quantify a little bit what we think a range might look like and look for that directionally.
I think it's worth exploring. I just have concerns that the longer it takes for us to rally around and make a decision, the more is gonna bog Greg down.
Yeah, but I think the answer would be to get an interim person in for a month or two until we do that. I just think that in fairness, to not rush either way, to take pressure off of Beth, because she's doing it, and to give Greg the support he needs short-term, that spending someone, having a 2-month window or whatever for a part-time or a temporary person while we sort it out, would be the only way to do that properly.
Oh, I agree. Then that temporary person knows nothing.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I want there to be value in that
Yeah.
position for the work Greg's trying to get done too.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm struggling with though is that I almost see the two issues as separate.
Mhm.
I still, I can't get around the need for a full-time office person, even with an assistant TA.
Well, I think they have to be both. I don't think we're big enough to say we have an assistant TA and that assistant TA has to have the office pieces. It's got to be a hybrid between the two, I
So
think.
that's what I'm skeptical about finding
Mhm.
Hmm.
the person, so the person out of graduate school looking for their first assistant TA job
Mhm.
isn't gonna wanna do the paper pushing that this,
Yeah.
Right.
the office requires.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. It depends. I don't know. I guess I'm a little more open on that. If you find the right kind of person, they might. I'm not saying that they wouldn't. I don't see necessarily they'd be taking minutes, but I think we've got a way to
Right,
deal with that. So, and I think we need to quantify what it is we need them to do, paper pushing wise, right? What exactly are we talking about around that? And to frame it up in a way that makes sense.
It's a lot of paper pushing. There is quite a lot that needs to be done.
Yeah.
That's what I'm all stuck on, to
Mhm.
tell you the truth. I have a hard time seeing us not having someone who's really dedicated to that office management piece, which includes being responsible for all the paper.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, there's a constant flow of things which comes to us
Mhm.
sorted and neatly arranged all through that office.
Mhm.
And phone calls and letters that have to be done in between to pull it all together, none of which should go through you.
Just organizing all those papers and
Right.
files.
Yeah.
Well, I would think a person that has that capability would be able to handle that, is my thought, I guess. Maybe I'm being naive, but I think if you find the right I think maybe not, and that's part of what we have to sort, right? Even if we decide directionally we want to look at this, are there even candidates out there that
That's-
are
that's the thing.
interested?
That have that
right?
skill set.
That have that skill set and can match. But my point is, let's at least have the conversation, let's see what it looks like, let's see what sorts out. And we may find that we find someone who has got a lot of energy and is willing to go and has some of the project management skills we're talking about and a few of the other things. I think that the key thing here is having an ability to have someone to be able to inform Greg about what they're doing versus ask them what to do. And that's the balance point that is important on this.
So your candidate pool right now that you have, do any of them meet to any degree some of the additional higher-end skill sets that we've talked about here today? That some of the assistant.
Potentially, it's hard to say definitively. I think we need another go-round with them to answer that question. So I guess I'm feeling there's enough potential there that it's worth having the second round. We've got 4, I think, that we've identified as 3 or 4 of that potential. It may fall short, but it may not. So I guess I'm feeling that it's worthwhile doing that, to see if we can ascertain that.
See if you have a sense that there is someone that could learn and take on more incrementally.
Like grow into the position.
Right. Grow into the adding into the position once they've gotten started. I think it's, well, I guess my theory is if you've had conversations with 3 or 4 folks and you feel like there's a possibility, then we should have that second conversation to know or not know.
Yeah, and my point was to define exactly what we're asking that additional piece to
Right.
be, so that we can be clear about what we're asking them for.
Well, I think, I think we know it's management in the office of day to day. Then it's a question of, is there a capability within those 3 or 4 folks to be able to add some parts of the whole that we're trying to get to? Grant writing, and I guess then, for me, it'd be great to prioritize what over and above we needed on a daily basis in there. Then create the list of those tasks and then prioritize those and see if there's someone that fits
I mean,
that ability.
you know what that list of skills and features are that currently fall to you, of the sorts of things that we're talking about here that could potentially be handed off, right? We don't have the full list in that full list, so it'd be best for you to develop that specific and detailed list of, here's the extra things that ordinarily a pure town secretary wouldn't necessarily be doing. These are the extra things that we would like you to take on. I'm not sure that we should be developing that list.
No, I don't think we should be, but I think for me, again, going back to direction, I would be willing to support an elevated position as long as we can articulate what it was, understand the cost, and what the benefits would be of it. And I think that's the only direction that I wanted to have from the board to Greg.
That's fine. I think
It's
that's
just
fine.
that
And I think,
end,
I don't think that necessarily requires that we pause, right? It may disqualify some of the candidates you have.
Right, and depending on how the second round goes, it may mean reopening.
Mhm.
And if that's the case, then I think in the interim, we would go to a temp.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't need to prejudge that at this exact
Right.
point in time. I mean, in another week I do.
Right.
Um, And then the other question then becomes how we could try to shuffle some dollars. If we went a different route, where would those extra dollars come from?
Mhm.
budget's really set at this point.
'Cause
Right.
that's out of
Right.
$2,018 and the $19 actually.
I mean, I know you probably spent some of the money that, you know, for minutes that Deb would have been getting paid, but we should have some money in that account that we can hopefully hold on to and move into the 2009, the fiscal 2019 budget, or does that just revert all the way back to the cash balance?
Yeah, salaries are treated a little differently than operating expenses.
Right, right.
I need to confirm that.
Okay.
That's a good area of your question.
Hmm.
We should have had a card for Andrea.
Why?
Yeah, her father passed away.
Her father passed
Oh,
away.
I didn't know that.
Oh, that's too bad. Had he
She was pretty
been,
quiet about it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
pretty quiet anyway.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's good. Some ideas anyway, direction, okay.
You got enough?
I do.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good night, Cape Ann.